Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Weekly Walk. I'm your host Joshua Ingram. It is Monday, June 21st, year of our Lord 2021. This will be episode number 40. So it's actually been several weeks since I've done one of these, and um, it'd really be hard to explain why, because I can't really put it into words or explain sufficiently why I haven't been able to do one of these, but um, it's just a really odd season in my walk, in my faith. Um, there's a lot of perplexing issues going on. Nothing dramatic. It's nothing overtly alarming or anything like that. It's just this weird season of I was going to say stillness, but I don't know if that's the right word. Passivity or apathy. I don't really know how to explain it. Um, the majority of my Christian walk has been, if you were to look internally within my mind, within my heart, it would be a red hot blazing fire of just inner dialogue with the spirit, constant self-examination, um, examining my own, seeing my own sin, feeling shame and guilt, and just battling that sin, fighting against it, desiring not to have it. So there's just a constant battle. And as I sat here and thought about it right before I hit record, that shame and that guilt, I wouldn't classify as bad things. I would say those are good things, because they're not overwhelming shame and guilt where it inhibits me from being productive or making progress. I feel like it's the proper amount of guilt and shame that spurs me on to keep fighting. It's viewing myself as the chief of all sinners, like Paul saw himself. Um, just always being aware of who I am in the flesh, being aware of what the flesh is, being aware of that, the internal motives, the internal desires, the internal fantasies, imaginations, seeing how wicked they are, and knowing that I have no hope within myself, that myself is repulsive, that my flesh is the enemy, that my flesh is the vicious penultimum enemy, like more so than the devil, more so than the world, is my flesh. And so that's been a majority of my walk, is seeing that, being aware of that, and fighting against that. And that's kept my Christian faith active and like I say, fiery. It's just kept the fires burning, even in periods of dullness externally, or periods of seeming um, seemingly inactivity. There's always that battle going on underneath the surface, and so that's been the history of my walk, or my experience so far. Lately, within the last couple months, there's been a cooling period, which is an odd thing, because externally it looks like everything's fine. It just looks like nothing's really happening. Like life has kind of come to a dull standstill. There's nothing really going on. Internally, on the surface level, it appears as a calmness, a an acceptance of life, what would seemingly be contentment, like just chill. But it just occurred to me that verse in Timothy says, "Godliness with contentment is great gain." And the thing that may be lacking is godliness. So I wouldn't say it's real contentment. It's a deceptive contentment, I think. Um, I don't know if any of this makes sense, but basically the last few months it's just been a season of nothing occurring, no real urgency in my spiritual walk, and just kind of this calm acceptance of the way things are. And so, like I say, on the surface that would appear to be a good thing, but it's caused this worry or anxiety underneath that in my subconscious that's saying like, um the fires are cooling, don't be okay with this. um it's almost like, we're supposed to be in this wartime mentality, because we're in a spiritual battle. So we're supposed to have this wartime um, mentality that's always, and that's what I think I've had, just always warring against the flesh. And now, what seems like a time of peace where there's not really a war going on, but that's concerning because I know there is a war. So it's like, have I been lulled into a false sense of security that's causing the fires of passion and fight and desire to cool, where I've just kind of become blasé, or um, it's like I'm in neutral, and that's not a good thing. So that neutrality, it's kind of like, it by way of analogy, if our spiritual walk is us in a canoe going um upriver, you know, you're constantly paddling, you're constantly striving, because you're going against the flow of life. We've been called to the narrow path. We have to fight upstream. And so we're we're constantly struggling to do so. We're constantly paddling, and sometimes going over rough waters. And it's like I've come into this pool of stillness where there's no movement, but I've become accustomed to paddling and fighting and struggling, where I have this muscle memory, this reflexive attitude of it. You got to keep paddling. But because I've come into this area of stillness where there's seemingly not really anything going on in my life, um, I don't really have an agenda. I don't have a goal. I don't really know what the Lord wants me to do. And so I've entered this still waters, and instead of paddling and struggling, I've kind of just um, taken it as a time to goof off. Jump out of the canoe, swim around, go to shore, pick some fruit off the bushes. And it's like, there's this underlying awareness that at any moment, I'm going to have to start paddling again. The things are going to pick up again. And I don't want to be caught off guard. Um, None of this makes any sense, I'm sure, to anybody out there, because I'm trying to explain something internally that's occurring that I really don't even understand. Um, it's just a period of stillness in my life where I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know. I don't see any clear objectives. I don't see anything that the Lord wants me to do. In the past, all the seasons, I've had a vision. I've had a things that I knew that I was supposed to do. When my son was young, the ministry was pouring into him, and I was still young in the faith, so it was a period of study and growth and just personal spiritual development. And then I went into this period of kind of discipleship where I was mentoring young believers and leading a Bible study, and that kind of morphed into a season of fellowship where it was a desire to grow together as a unity. And now I'm at the season where I don't really have anything to do. Like it's just, my life just seems at a standstill. It's kind of just, you wake up, you go to the gym, you go to work, you go to bed, you repeat. And there's no sense of purpose. There's no goal. And because of that, because of the lack of movement, so to speak, in the analogy of the river, I've stopped paddling. And that scares me. I don't want to stop paddling. It's even in still waters, I still got to keep going. Like the Christian life, you have to be making progress or you're floating backwards. You got to keep striving. There's no going back. We've put our hand to the plow. It's a continual work now until the day of redemption. And so because of this period of internal spiritual stillness, I've fallen into just not necessarily sinful, not necessarily worldly habits, but just kind of, my focus has become more on just what can I do to get some enjoyment in life? What can I do to get some pleasure out of life? Again, I don't know if any of this makes sense. It's I haven't been getting much done spiritually, you know? It's without the struggle of paddling and without the urgency of the fight, I've kind of grown numb almost. So anyways, how has that all tied into me not doing a podcast? Well, I've mentioned the different so-called ministries that I do. Just these little small things that I don't know if anybody else would classify as a ministry, but I do the Facebook Live videos, I do YouTube teaching videos, and I do this podcast. And part of the reason I do these things is because of that internal battle. That internal fire keeps me focused. Like I have to be doing spiritual things. I need to be productive for the kingdom. And I'm a lazy person by nature. I'm not an outgoing person, and so I feel like the Lord has blessed me and given me social media as a means of doing some form of ministry, even though it's a small, seemingly ineffective with a small reach. At least I'm outpouring something. I'm striving to do something, and so that internal struggle within me causes me to focus on being diligent in scheduling spiritual activities. I make sure, like, that internal battle makes me go, all right, I need to have a time of prayer every day. I need to have a time of Bible study every day. And I need to have a time of outreach every day. And it's that internal struggle with sin that causes me to have that urgency and to realize this has to get done. It creates a zeal within. And because of the still time that I'm in, that zeal has kind of faded, and I've fallen apart schedule wise. Like I'm just not doing anything productive really. I've slowed down on the videos I do. I've slowed down on the like it's almost come to a stop. Like every once in a while I'll do one. The podcast, I don't think I've done one in 4 weeks now. So Like I say, that's why there's this sense of danger, because it's like these, while the internal struggle of guilt and shame and battle against the flesh and seeing myself as the chief of all sinners, some people could look at that and go, oh, it's this woe is me, doom and gloom type attitude. But no, it's not. It's what is necessary to fan the flames. It's what's necessary to keep me aware of the war that we're in and to keep me going. And because there's been a drawback from that, because I'm in this season of stillness, I've lost the urgency, I've lost the zeal. And so I just haven't been doing the things that I should. Instead, I've just been finding ways to please my flesh. And then, and like I say, I'm not talking about sinful things, just things to waste time, things to bring outward enjoyment or pleasure or whatever. But it's caused me to just really lose focus or urgency with these other spiritual things. So that's why I haven't been doing the podcast. Is just, I've lost the urgency. I've lost the regimented schedule. I've lost the I wouldn't say lost. I would say it's just the zeal has been quenched for some reason. And so that leads me into my next topic. And I struggled with this yesterday in prayer, thinking about doing this podcast, about how transparent I should be. Like, I don't want to be a stumbling block to anybody. And Romans 14 talks about certain things that we have liberty in that we should keep to ourselves because they could be a stumbling block to somebody else. And so I wrestle with that. I go, I think to myself, the things I'm doing in life or the struggles I'm having, how open should I be? Like, I don't want to cause anybody to stumble. And at the same time, transparency has always what's been best for me. It's been what has been most edifying in my life is when I'm an open book, when I share these internal struggles or I share what I'm doing in my life. That seems to be most beneficial. So I was trying to weigh that out, thinking like, how do I be transparent without uh, risking being a stumbling block to somebody, talking about certain issues that somebody might see as sinful and might be discouraged or led astray because of. And so I was praying about that, and I thought, in my experience, transparency has never been wrong. Being an open book has always been beneficial to me. Um, so I think I'll just continue that path and share my life and try to be as open as possible. So with that said, I want to discuss the issue of gambling and specifically the issue of casinos. In the past, I had always viewed casinos as not necessarily sinful but dangerous. I always thought I never gambled. Like it just wasn't something I desired to do. I've never been a person who's had excess money, so I've never had the means to gamble. And I've gone to like buffets at a casino, and the times I've walked through there, just it felt like a spiritually dark atmosphere that caused me to forsake casinos and to actually um, look down or be cautious and to warn others that, hey, this is probably not something a Christian should be doing. Again, not that I saw gambling as a sin, because I know that in Christian circles gambling is considered taboo, but I always looked at it as I didn't see any scriptures that forbid gambling. And so I was like, I can't call gambling a sin. I just think a casino is not a good atmosphere. That was kind of my attitude. So earlier this year, one of my brothers was going to be getting married, and we wanted to have a bachelor party for him. And one of the ideas that came up was, hey, let's all just go to the casino. We'll have a good time. I think it started with let's all get together at a buddy's house and we'll play some poker, and then that kind of turned into, well, let's all just head down to the casino. And so we did that, and it ended up being a really fun time. I had some extra money that it didn't really matter if I lost it or not. It wasn't money that I needed. My bills were taken care of. Um, the savings were at a level I was comfortable with, so it was like, all right, I've got this little extra money. It doesn't really matter whether or not I win or lose. Let's just go have some fun for my brother's bachelor party. And after that, I realized, I really enjoyed going there. It was just, like I say, it was fun. I had a fun time. And so I was like, I reconsidered my position on casinos. And so I started to really carefully examine my heart, because while I don't think gambling is a sin, I do see certain precautions. There's a few things in the scriptures that warn, and one of them is those that desire to get rich quick bring swift destruction. I think that's a proverb. So if you have a desire in your heart to be rich, you're in a dangerous position that's apt to bring about some form of destruction. So you have to test your heart. Is there a desire to get rich? Is there a desire for quick gain, for riches? Is that desire lurking in there? And gambling can certainly cause that, or lead to that. And then the other one is in Timothy, it says the love of money is the root of all sin. And so again, you have to examine your heart. Is there a love of money? Um, and so as I reasoned this out, like when I went for the bachelor party, there was no love of money. There wasn't a desire to get rich. It was just a thing to do. It was just a fun time to have. That was the true inner desire. It was just, hey, let's go have fun. And so with that being the case, I didn't see any sin in it. I didn't see anything wrong in it. And that's kind of my position is a careful, sincere, true examination of self to say these dangerous aspects, a desire to get rich or a love of money, if that exists in your heart and that is the real motive behind gambling, then it is a sin. Then you've passed into that realm of sin. But if it's just a fun thing, if it's just a game, if it's like, um, you know, just sitting around and playing a game of poker with your buddies or whatnot, I don't see any sin in that. If it's just for fun, just that if your heart is pure in the matter, I don't see it as a sinful activity. So after that bachelor party, that led to this new idea, this new view of the whole casino experience. And so fast forward a couple months, and I'm sitting around and I've got nothing to do for the day. I'm kind of bored. I'm thinking, what is there to do? And my thought goes, well, again, I've got a little extra money. It doesn't really matter if I win or lose. Why not go to the casino? I had a fun time there last time. Maybe it's something fun I could do. It's I viewed it as like going to an amusement park. You know, you go to an amusement park, you spend 50 or $100, and you don't gain anything out of it. You don't walk away with any tangible things. You just get an experience of fun. And so I thought, well, that's kind of what a casino is. As long as you go there with the mindset that, hey, it's going to cost me $100 or whatever, but I'm going there to have fun for a few hours. So as long, and again, this is all done in prayer. This is done in careful self-examination where I'm testing my heart going, is there a love of money? Is there a desire for greedy gain? And being assured that in my heart, these things don't exist. I've never been one that really cares about money. It just hasn't been my desire. Probably to my detriment, where like a lot of people have plans for the future and desire to increase their bank account or build security. Like I don't have that. I don't care about money. I never have. It's just been when you have excess money, you just you buy what you want. You eat, drink, and be merry because tomorrow we die. It's this mindset of money comes and goes. It's irrelevant. It's an irrelevant thing. Like I don't care. I don't have worldly desires. I don't need a big house and a nice car and fancy clothes and I've never had that desire. I've always been just really content with what I have and I've always thought money is just a thing. It's sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't. It's irrelevant. And when you have it, I've never seen anything wrong with spending it. So just use it for whatever. um and so when I had a little extra money, I started going to the casino more frequently. And I would sit and test my heart. I would pray, Lord, is there anything wise I should be doing with this money? Is there anything I need to be investing in right now? I've got this little extra, couple $100 a month or whatever it is. Is there anything that I need to be doing with this money? Um, so it wasn't just a haphazard run into some thrilling desire of the flesh. It was a prayerful consideration of constantly examining myself, going, is this okay to do, Lord? Is this something like, am I being unwise in this? Is there anything I need to be applying this money towards? And finding that no, there's nothing really needed right now. The bills are paid. There's nothing that the Lord is really leading me to invest in right now. So just have some fun. It's like on the weekends, when I'm with my buddies and we go do something fun that costs me money too. I viewed it in that same light. It's just something fun to do, to for a few hours to just enjoy myself, and that's kind of how I viewed it. And so again, I suppose I didn't really want to get into a big testimony about my own personal life. I just kind of wanted to look at the issue of gambling as a whole. Is because again, a lot of Christians view this as a taboo thing, as something that Christians ought not to do. I thought, let's look at this biblically. Let's look at the issue of gambling biblically, and see whether or not there's sin involved. And here's what I've learned. In addition to those two verses about the love of money and those who desire to get rich, that those are paramount. I believe that anybody who is going to gamble in any form needs to carefully, and when I say carefully, I mean without deceiving yourself. You have to be truly, truly honest and self-examining to see if there's any semblance of these things in your heart. Is there any desire to get rich? Is there any love of money in your heart? If there's even a glimpse of that in your heart in the realm of gambling, then it's wrong, because your motive is wrong. You're not doing it for fun. You're not doing it out of innocency. You're doing it for impure motives. And so there has to be that careful examination. In addition, I think I've learned two other things about this. One, in my experience with casinos, I've found how addictive they can be. There's a thrill in winning. It triggers some sort of like an endorphin in your brain, the same way any pleasure triggers an endorphin, and so there's an addictive factor. There's a risk of becoming addicted to this. And you see that in the people that go to the casinos. You hear these horror stories about people spending their whole life savings, or like the elderly going in and spending all their retirement. It's because of that, I think, that addictive nature of it. And so there has to be a caution about that. And then I'm coming up on a break here. There's one other lesson I've learned from this, so I do want to expound on that on the other side of the break. So just stick with me. Hey, welcome back to the Weekly Walk. This is your host, Joshua Ingram, and we've been discussing the issue of gambling. Specifically, I started, telling my testimony of gambling, but my main focus was to look at the potential sinfulness of the issue, whether or not it's a sin, whether or not it's something Christians should participate in. And there was one more um, factor that I wanted to look at, one more angle to this that I wanted to discuss, something else that I discovered in the times where I've gone to the casino. And that is, you also, so again, I want to clarify, I do not see gambling as a sin. I don't think you can point to any verse that says this is a forbidden activity. I think it's an issue of liberty. It's an issue of, I don't see it in any other light than an amusement park or anything else you'd spend your money on that's frivolous and just kind of you're not purchasing anything. You don't get anything out of it other than fun, other than just an activity to spend your time on. So the other aspect I was thinking about is a Christian needs to carefully examine their heart, and see whether or not there's a love of money or a desire for gain. You need to be aware of the addictive nature of it and cautious about that. And then the other thing is to be a wise steward of your finances and to and that um applies everywhere. Like if you were going to an amusement park every weekend, and just throwing away $100, $200 on that, that could be an unwise use of your money. That could be, as a Christian, we're not to have a focus on the material. We're not to have a focus on the money. But you do need to be a wise steward. You wanna make sure that you're doing what you need to do in life. You want to make sure your bills are paid. You want to make sure that you're being wise and having funds to take care of the things you need to take care of. We've all got bills. We all, have emergencies that come up, car problems or mortgage problems or what, getting food and things like that. These things need to be prioritized. And so if you're wasting money to the point where it might put you in danger of an inability to take care of the necessities of life, that's the other danger of gambling is you might be frivolously throwing away money in the same way. Like I say, if you were to, if you're a paycheck to paycheck guy, or lady, you don't have a lot of excess money, and you're going to the movie theater, 3, 4 times a week and throwing away all that money, or you're going to an amusement park, or you're going to Dave and Buster's, and or you're going out to eat all the time. It's an unwise use of your funds. You're frivolously throwing away the money without any foresight, without any thought. And there's this balance that needs to be had, because we're not supposed to worry about tomorrow. We're not supposed to care about tomorrow and store up big barns in preparation of tomorrow. Our hope is not in finances. We shouldn't be putting hope in money to protect us from the future. We should be putting our hope in Christ and not worrying about money. But at the same time, you want to be wise in the use of the funds that the Lord provides for you. And you want to make sure that you're handling money in a wise, righteous fashion. And so if you're just frivolously throwing away money in any activity, I think that would be bad. And casinos, because of the addictive nature of it, are perhaps more dangerous than a movie theater, an amusement park, or a Dave and Buster's, or going out to eat, or whatever activity it is that you're just wasting money on. Those don't seem to have as much danger as a casino because of that addictive nature. So again, to just kind of summarize, I don't see the activity itself as a sinful activity, but there are several spiritual things that you need to consider. There are several things that need to be thought out and you need to have caution in before partaking in this activity, and those are the four I've outlined. Number one is the biblical principles of not loving money and not desiring to get rich. Um, uh, Number two, being aware of the addictive potential, the addictive nature, and number three, being a wise steward of your finances and not frivolously throwing away your money. Although we're not to care for money, we do have to be wise in the way that we spend it. So did I say there were four things? I guess there was just those three, unless I'm missing one. But so that's kind of where I stand on the gambling thing. Um, I guess the fourth would be that the scriptures say, if your conscience is offended by something, if there's any hesitation in your spirit, like you think something may be sinful, then don't do it. Because anybody who does something with an unclean conscience, who violates their conscience, it is a sin to you. And I think the good rule of thumb there is, if you're prayerfully considering something and you're hesitant on it, you don't know whether or not it would be sinful or not, don't do it. You know, lean towards that side of it, because you don't want to violate your conscience. You don't want to do something that could cause condemnation, that could cause this sense of guilt and sinfulness within you. So there's things that aren't necessarily defined in the scriptures as sin, you know, and so that's where Christian liberty comes out. But depending on your maturity and where you are in your walk, if you view something as sinful, or you view something as potentially sinful, then it is sin to you and you should not do it. But that's kind of where I land on this whole gambling casino thing. Um, it's just something you have to wrestle out and consider these biblical principles before going into it, and being very cautious. It is an area that can be dangerous because of these issues. It can lead to a tainted conscience, to sin, if you have these impure motives, or if you're being frivolous with your money, or you become addicted to it. So just a caution, and just some of the things that I've observed in the times that I've gone to a casino. Like I say, I never went before this year, and then it just became kind of a time period in my life where it was like, okay, well, let's. Well, I don't want to rehash it. I guess I've expressed myself fully on the issue, but there was a hesitancy to discuss this, because I know some people out there are going to think that gambling is a sin. And again, I don't want to be a stumbling block by people saying, oh, this man went to the casino. This man, he says he's a Christian, and yet he's doing this sinful activity. I hope I've expressed myself in a way that's clear. Like, I don't think it is a sin. I think there's dangers in it that I've expressed, but the times that I've gone, I've had careful self-examination, and I do not believe that I've crossed any line where I went into sin with it. So this will probably be a shorter podcast here, because I really don't, like I say, because of this weird period I'm in my life where there's not much really going on. I don't have a whole lot to discuss. It's just a strange time for me, where there's not a whole lot of zeal. There's not a whole lot of focus right now. I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing in my spiritual walk right now. And so because of that, there's not a whole lot of internal dialogue and examination going on. And that's what this podcast is all about, is me taking that internal dialogue, that internal struggle, that internal movement, that internal walk, the weekly walk, and expressing it, expressing, what's been going on in my internal dialogue, what's been going on in my motives and my desires and my thoughts and my imaginations, and how that's applicable to the faith, how that's applicable to my Christian walk. And I'm kind of at a standstill right now, and so I don't have a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of that internal struggle going on. There's not a whole lot of zeal going on. There's not a lot of topics that are pressing upon my heart right now. Um, Other than I worry about the lack of zeal. I worry about the lack of passion. Um, I don't want the fires within to cool. Um, but I don't really have anything right now to fan the flame. There's no There's no focus. There's no goal. There's no vision. There's no agenda. I don't know. There's no direction right now. I'm kind of at a standstill. And so, um, I'm just kind of waiting on the Lord to see what the next season brings, to see where I'm supposed to go, what I'm supposed to do, what I'm supposed to be focused on. And in the meantime, I'm just kind of sitting still. I still pray. I still read my Bible. I'm still, doing a Bible study on Saturday mornings. Um, but other than that, it's just kind of a waiting period where I'm at a standstill. And so that really makes it hard, to put together a podcast, an hour long podcast where I discuss what's going on in my life, because there's nothing going on. I'm just kind of here, and just waiting for something to do. So I guess with all that said, I'll have to wrap it up here, and just keep this short and sweet. As always, I truly appreciate you guys listening. I love you very much. It brings me joy, to see those of you who listening, to get your feedback. I really appreciate that. And I love you guys, and Lord willing, we'll talk to you next time.